Good evening and welcome out there in virtual world. Welcome to the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby Kinzer and that's Thomas Doty. And we welcome you to our show where we're trying to help our people get their finances in shape. We're so glad that everybody's joining us. We've been going for over 2 months now, and we've been having some great, interesting topics. And we're just glad that people have been joining. So remember, make sure if you have any opinions, comments, or statements, put them in the comment box. And also click on the thumbs up button so we can get traction, and the heart button and the face button. All those buttons help us go out and reach more people. So we really appreciate if you all do that. Dode, how you doing today?
Couldn't be better, good brother. How you doing?
You're looking marvelous. I got to tell you that you're looking absolutely marvelous. Remember, it's not how you feel, it's how you look, and you look marvelous. Hey, Doe, over the past few years, it's been kind of trying on people, would you say? And what we have been trying to do is educate our people on how to increase their wealth, no matter how trying and difficult the times have been. This is why we've been doing this show, and we like to share with you this information on an ongoing basis. So make sure you tell other people about it, share it, put that information out there, not just to your family, but even your friends. Because the issue, what we're trying to do, make people aware of the financial opportunities that are available, which they can take advantage of. Now, we know there's no guarantee that the market will perform the same over the next year. But on average, over the long term, the stock market has returned between 8 and 10% over the long haul. So we've been coming to you with a lot of different strategies and tools, but today we want to share with you what we call the FITT Show financial model. Before we get into that, Dope, why don't you share with some of the statistics that we've come across?
Yeah, I saw these and they kind of smacked me in the face, and it just made me realize that we really aren't. When I say we, I'm talking about a lot of people aren't taking advantage of some of the things that have been going on in the market. And these statistics, if you take a look at it, half of the total increase in Americans' wealth last year came from rising stock prices, and hopefully you were able to take advantage of those. I mean, soaring home values also played a part. So if you were invested in the market, you had a house, in most cases, your net worth went up tremendously in the last year. Now, when you look a little closer, the wealthiest 10% of Americans own 90% of all stocks and mutual funds. And half of households, the bottom half of households hold less than 1%. And people talk about the wealth gap growing. It's these types of statistics that make that gap even wider. One more statistic, the top 20% of earners own nearly all the stock held by U.S. households. And one way to get out of that poverty is some of the things we're going to talk about. And we're not saying this is the only way to build wealth. This is what we recommend because it's worked for us. We both have done quite well in the market, housing, the whole bit. We've been fairly successful, and we want to share what we think are some of the important components to help you build wealth. Whether you're young, old, in between, doesn't matter. We're sharing based on our knowledge. I spent 41 years working for a corporation and being responsible for large sums of money. Bob spent 30 plus years working for the FDIC, overseeing banks, understanding their operations. And so we are trying to take the knowledge that we've gained from our work experience, our business experience, our investment in stocks and bonds and everything else we've bought. And we're trying to pass that on to you. So again, we're not saying this is the end all be all, but this is what has worked for us and has made us successful. And that's what we're trying to pass on to you. So we're going to.
I want to give I want to give another disclaimer because it may seem that, like, when you look at those statistics, they were talking about, people being in the stock market. And I know when you hear us on this show, we talk a lot about being in the stock market. And I just want to give a disclaimer. The reason why we pro being in the stock market, because it's not only a few places that you can really gain wealth. I mean, let me take that back. There's several places you can gain wealth, but one of the most advantageous places that you can gain wealth and not, risking your whole life savings and your house and everything and your whole family income on is in the stock market. But with that, I want to share with you what we've been talking about. And this is, hold on, let me get this straight here. What we've been talking about the past few months. Can you see that model, Dope?
Yes.
We've been talking about these components that lead to you creating wealth. And we've come up with this model. So discuss a little bit about the FITT Show wealth model, Dope.
Yeah. Again, we're not saying this is the only way to do it, but this is what we've put together. And these are the things that we feel if you focus on these, learn what you need to learn, have the discipline to follow through on these things, then you'll be able to build wealth. My greatest fear is that somebody will throw some money into the stock market will make a correction, and they'll go, what the heck were these guys talking about? We're talking about long-term investing. We're not talking about get rich quick. We're not talking about worrying about every increase or decrease in the market from day to day. We're talking about investing over the long haul, talking about putting your money together, developing plans, and looking, again, over the long haul and building wealth, sustainable wealth that you can pass on to your heirs. That's what we're trying to pass along.
And we're not talking about day trading. We're not talking about options and margins, because those are ways to make money too. But those are so risky and so complicated. And we're just trying to give you some of the basics, understandings on how to build wealth. And if you follow this model, it will lead you down the road to financial independence. And that's what we came up with this model. And we'll talk further that this is just the beginning, because there's other components that we're going to be adding and building onto this model. But we're going to start first with the top of the model, which is self-assessment. And we're going to go clockwise. And that's how we built the show. And that's how the model was also built, on the steps toward leading to creating wealth. So as you can see, the first one is self-assessment. Now, self-assessment is plain and simple. Before you do anything, you need to understand, it's basically an examination of yourself, of your own, your emotions, your values, because these all lead to the decisions that you make, to the goals that you plan. Your values are important. Is family more important than your finances? Is religion more important than your family and your finances? Those are things you need to make sure that you look at and assess. You need to look at your behavior, because a lot of this financial behavior is inherited through families. If your mother and father were not good at managing their funds, their money, guess what? 9 times out of 10, you probably not. If your father bought a new car every 2-3 years and spent money on cars, which is not an appreciating asset, guess what? You'll probably be doing the same exact thing. So one of the first things you need to do is do a true, fair assessment. And the other assessment that we're going to talk about in a minute, be serious with yourself. Do you really want to get control of your finances? You need to have that talk with yourself and go past those dark places, those places that are tough to get by when you're doing this examination. Get by that, because a lot of people's debt becomes an albatross around their neck, and they're afraid to even look at it, so they become paralyzed and they don't do nothing. So we're giving you the steps and things that you can do that can lead you to closer to financial independence. Doug, won't you share a little bit about financial goals?
Financial goals. Once you've done your assessment, you understand where you are, what your thoughts and feelings are, and hopefully the person that you live with is on the same page, because that's very important. But then you establish your financial goals. You're going to have short-term goals, things that are less than a year. That's typically going to be handling your monthly expenses. Then you're going to have long-term goals, things like paying for college, vacation, maybe retirement, buying a home. Those are the things you're going to look at, and you have to have it on paper to say, this is what I'm going to try to do. This is the plan I have. This is what I hope to accomplish. It's very important that you make these goals realistic. It has to be something reasonable. Owning a Bentley is probably not going to be there if you aren't making enough money to support that. They should be realistic and achievable. And make sure you don't make the goals so great that you have no chance of reaching them, because then you're more apt to give up quickly. But you don't want to make them. You don't want to have them where they're not something that you actually want to, because then you'll put the effort and the work required to accomplish those goals. So after you've assessed yourself, you've set your goals up, lay them out in front of you, and then you move ahead.
That's really good, Doug. And I just want to share with you all, I know a lot of people have heard of the SMART goals, using the acronym when it comes to financial goals and planning. And it's SMART goals, the word SMART. So specific, make sure you go specific. Make sure they're measurable, you can measure them. They're attainable, they're realistic, like Doug said, and there's a timetable. There's always got to be a time horizon based on when you're setting your goals, so you know how much risk you need to take to be able to get to some of your goals. I'd like to say hello to everybody out there who joined us, our family and friends. It's always a pleasure. Make sure y'all click on the thumbs up button, because once again, that gives us more traction and opens Facebook, puts us out to more audiences by doing that. And you can't hit it enough times, you all. So dope. Next in the model is savings. And savings is a big one. But the interesting thing about savings, though, is it's counterintuitive, because just savings will not create wealth. But savings is the initial foundation that you must build upon to head towards investing and building up funds. Like savings, the short-term, long-term goals you talk about, though, people need to make sure their short-term goals are met first. And that's usually emergency fund, which is 3 to 6 months. Some people say 6 to 12, but we say at least 3 to 6 months of your rent or your mortgage, whatever you're paying. You should have that in case any kind of tragedy or any kind of unexpected consequence happens. That's the first important thing about savings. But then you also need to have, investable monies, because just having money in a savings account, which is paying less than 1%, that's what I mean is counterintuitive if you think you're just going to save your way to wealth, because savings accounts are paying less than 1%. You have to take that money and put it in somewhere where it can work for you and you can maximize the potential of the earning power of your money. And then in this savings bucket we're talking about is zero risk. There's also having some of that money put in where you're not taking the risk. You need to put it where it's zero risk, like I said, in case emergencies or large purchase items happen, like your air conditioner go out, your stove go out. Those are the short-term things that you need to plan for when it comes to talking about. And then the other there's another one, you need to save for retirement. That is so important also. You must save for retirement, and that comes in the savings. And the last and not least, but not in this order, you got to pay yourself first. You must pay yourself first. Because if you keep just paying bills, you never get ahead if you don't put something aside so that you can save, have for emergency, have for investable funds, and have for retirement. The next component, though.
Okay, this is budgeting. And I know this is easy for a guy like myself who loves numbers, who is an accountant by trade. But it's very, very important. You have to force yourself to track what you're spending money on. They talk about that when you're talking about dieting, is to know what you're eating. It's the same thing with budgeting your cash. You have to know what you're spending money on, and then you can take a look at it and make adjustments. I think I've mentioned before, if you find out you're spending $5 a day at Starbucks, okay, that's $25 a week. That's over $100 a month. Maybe that's not what you need to do. If you, going back to what we talked about before, you want to accomplish your goals. You have to take the time to sit down with a budget and then have the discipline to stick to it. Put it on paper, include every category. Bob just mentioned, you know things are going to break. Your car is going to need maintenance. If you have an older car, it's going to need more maintenance than a newer car. You know certain bills that don't come every month, like your car insurance or your homeowner's insurance if you don't escrow. So those are kind of things you have to put on paper and leave some money to enjoy yourself. I mean, it's not just, you don't work just to pay bills, but you have to have some money, an allotment of money to enjoy something you do. You don't want to I just work to pay bills. That wouldn't be a happy life. But track your spending, make sure you aren't wasting money, and look for ways to cut down on expenses. You might find that you're spending way too much money going out for lunch. Maybe you can pack a lunch a few days a week to cut that bill down. You might want to look at catching a bus instead of driving, or parking a little further away and getting a cheaper parking rate. There's all kind of things you can do to cut your costs. And again, it comes easy for a guy like me because I love saving money, and that's kind of what I do. That's how I think, and I think about when I first started, first got married. We'd sit at our big date was sitting at the park cutting out coupons on Sunday. That's just how I am. But you have to find the discipline to put your numbers on paper. Get something a budget you can live with, stick to it, and it goes back to being able to accomplish your goals.
The next one is very important, and actually all of these important. But this also credit. Credit, man, credit is a lot of people know about credit, but I don't think they really understand it though. And, credit, and we must remind ourselves, credit is just the privilege of using other people's money. Remember, it's not your money. And one of the biggest things about credit is you need to understand that there's good credit. I mean, there's good, and bad credit. And the good credit leads you to lower interest rates, employment, gives you access, and it gives you good credit scores. One of the things you need to make sure you understand about credit is the 3 C's that every lender look at when they want to lend you money. And that's capacity, character, and collateral. Capacity is your ability to pay. Do you have income? Do you have a job? Character is, do you pay on time? Are you trustworthy? And the third one is collateral. In case you don't have the income or you lose your job, do you have something that you can pledge against where they can ensure that they're going to get your money? It's just called the 3 C's. And if you keep those things straight, you'll be in a position to be able to borrow money. And understand the 3 credit bureaus give you one free annual credit report a year, and it's annualcreditreport.com. We must use that not just to keep an eye on fraudulent or misuse of your credit, but also you need to look and see if there's any errors that may be out there that could be pulling your score down. The third thing, you must understand the factors that influence your credit scores. And that's like your utilization rate, which is also called the debt to limit ratio, meaning, the credit balance that you have to use and the actual amount of balance on there, it should be 30% or less. Because if it goes over 30% utilization rate of your available credit, it can affect your credit. It pulls your score down. And then another thing is factors is, delinquencies, multiple inquiries for credit. Those are the kind of things of risk factors that pulls your score down. So in credit, you need to make sure you don't pay no interest. So you pay on time, pay it full at the end of the month. So you don't have to worry about that. Have a plan to manage your money and to use it in a positive way. There's positives and negatives of credit. No.
Okay. Next was reducing debt. The first thing you have to do to reduce your debt is stop spending money.
Plain and simple.
Stop spending. That's what you have to do. You got to stop using that credit card. And I'm not talking about a situation where that's your only means. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking when you're saying you want to reduce your debt, but you're still out there parking, hitting that credit card every chance you get. You have to stop spending if you want to reduce your debt. Okay? Create a plan to reduce your debt. We talked about a couple of methods. We talked about the avalanche and the snowball approach. In the snowball approach, you pick one particular bill and pay more than the minimum on that bill, get that bill paid off, take that money plus the minimum that you were paying on the next bill, put it on the next bill, and you continue until you get all your bills paid off. Try to understand your credit contracts. And the thing there is you want to avoid some of the fees that banks look to charge you for being late, for not paying your bills on time, for not paying the minimum. We talked about using apps and using the internet to help you remember to pay your bills on time. They help you remember to make sure you pay at least the minimum payment. Those are the kind of things you can do to avoid the extra charges that a lot of times you get caught up in and get further and further behind. But the first thing you got to do to reduce debt, stop increasing and stop using your credit card.
And debt is an albatross, though, because that is the biggest killer for people. You can't build wealth if you have a lot of debt. Now, let's clarify that, though. Is there such thing as good debt and bad debt?
Oh, definitely. If you're investing in a house and you have a house payment, then that's something that's going to help you. That's going to increase in value. That's something we'll talk about in a minute. But the government will actually help you pay that mortgage. So there's definitely good debt, but the debt I'm talking about is where you're paying 18% interest. And other than this past couple of years, very few people are making 18% on their investments. So you're getting further and further in the hole every month if you're paying 18 up to 24, 25% interest, which is the interest rate on some credit cards. You have to stop paying extra to use other people's money to buy things that you don't need to have.
Remember what Albert Einstein said: people who understand interest earn it. People who don't understand interest pay it. Which one do you want to be? That is so important. So the next one we want to talk about in the FITT Show creating wealth model is risk management, which applies to insurances. Okay, you need to make sure you have the insurance you need, the type and the amount, from mortgage insurance, or whether it's renter's insurance or health insurance, flood insurance, all those kind of things that we talked about. You need to make sure you just have the right insurance that you need. And so you don't be, over-insured either. You don't want to be paying more than you have to. The other thing is read the fine print. Read the fine print in these warranties, these things, these insurance policies, life insurance, term insurance, annuities, all those kind of things, man. You need to make sure you read the fine print, and review periodically because your insurance needs change. Don't be afraid to shop for the best rate you can get. That is so important. And consider insurance to lower the cost. Consider group insurance to lower the cost, like the trade groups like AARP. Matter of fact, I used my card the other day and got a discount. Alumni associations, Costco, these trade groups, these group insurances, they give you the benefit because it's group, so they lower the premiums that you have to pay for this particular insurance because it's in a group. So, take advantage of that. And remember our saying when it comes to making the right insurance decision. If you're traveling the road of life and you don't make the right insurance decision, don't blame somebody else. It's your own ass fault. I love that one, Doe. But go ahead, Doe. Talk about investing on the next piece of the model.
Okay. As I said before, when we talk about investing, we're talking about investing for the long term. We're not talking about get-rich scheme. We're talking about either buying good quality stocks or mutual funds or EFTs that reflect, the market or a broad base of assets. So you aren't, putting all your eggs in one basket. So you have to understand your goals, know what you're trying to accomplish. If you're young and starting off, you have an opportunity to invest in something that's aggressive because you have time. If the market corrects, you have time for the market to recover and get that money back when the market does correct. If you're investing for you have to pay for college for a kid and the kid's 5 years old, you can start off being aggressive, but once the kid gets around 13, 14, you have to start being a little more conservative because that's money that you can't afford to lose. And that's one of our basic principles. You don't invest money that you need to pay bills, okay? You invest money that you put away for the long term that can withstand the market corrections or can withstand fluctuations in the market. And so it has time to grow, okay? And you got to monitor what you invest. You have to take a look at it to make sure you are where you need to be because things change. That's the one thing we know. Nothing stays the same. So you have to monitor how your money's doing and if it's within your realm of where you want to be. And if you don't have the knowledge, get a certified financial planner to help you make decisions. It doesn't mean you have to be an expert, but you have to put some time into understanding certain terms, certain concepts, so you can have an intelligent conversation when somebody brings up different principles. If the guy mentions beta, I think we talked about that last week, you have to understand that beta means the volatility of a stock. And so when you express to him what your goals are, he can have an idea of what you're looking for. So you have to put some time in this. Getting rich isn't easy. It's not. There's 1 in a million people who can, hit a lottery number or lucky enough to pick a specific stock that grows 100-fold. But for most people that we know, that's not going to happen. So you have to have a systematic approach to investing, make sound decisions on what you invest for the long term. Don't invest money that you need. And if you know enough to do that on your own, that's fine. If you don't, you still need to do some work to understand the basics. And then you get a certified financial planner to help you move down the road as far as investing goes.
Hey, Doe, can I add to that investing thing? One of the main other key things is you got to understand your risk tolerance if you're going to be investing. And we know, remember, the lower the risk, the lower the return, the higher the risk, the higher the return. But it's upon you to understand what your risk tolerance is. What level of risk can you take that you can sleep at night?
That's very important, very important. And again, if you look at your time frame, if you're investing for something that's 10, 15 years down the road, you should be able to have a higher risk tolerance. Okay, but again, that's not for everybody. Between me and Bob, we both have a different outlook on risk. And It's not a right or wrong. It's what you're comfortable with. Okay. It's what you're comfortable with. Okay. The next topic kind of ties into investment is taxes. And this is one I'm adamant about because, being a CPA, I understand it a little better than most people, but I must admit that taxes is so complicated that it's hard for anyone to understand. But the thing that you have to know is that the tax code is geared to benefit rich people. It's geared to benefit people who own homes. That's why the government subsidizes purchasing a home by allowing you to deduct interest on the home, by allowing you to deduct property taxes on a home, by making the sale of a home a non-taxable event, as long as it's under, I think, $500,000. As long as the gain is less than $500,000. So the government will basically subsidize or help you buy a house. And if you're not taking advantage of that, that's kind of money being left on the table. And we just finished talking about investing. The government subsidizes investment. Now, how does it do that? Well, they give you a break on dividends. There's a maximum tax rate that you'll pay on qualified dividends. There's a maximum tax rate that you will pay on capital gains. Okay? So if you invest in a stock and it goes up X number of dollars, the amount of taxes that you pay is limited. You don't pay it as you would on ordinary income. So if you're only working every day and all you have is your wages, typically every dollar that you make is taxable. But if you invest in a stock, earn money on a stock, you can lower the amount of money that you pay in taxes. Okay, so if you lose, now the amount of tax, let's call it credit, that you get for a loss is maxed at $3,000, but you can also use losses to offset any gains. So again, face it, these are the rules of the game. The tax code are geared for people who invest and people who buy homes, and basically for rich folks. And we all read stories about how the rich folks don't pay taxes, blah, 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 blah. That's true. But if you're not taking advantages of some of the same things that rich people are taking advantage of, then that's on you. If you aren't investing and reaping these same rewards that rich folks are doing, these are things you can do that you can take advantage of. Okay? So when you look at buying a house and you look at the fact that you can deduct the interest, you can deduct the property taxes, it's things like that. You can build equity, you can build wealth. That's what you can do by buying a home, and the government will help you do it. If you don't take advantage of it, you don't have anybody to blame but yourself.
And it favors people to have a business, because if you have a business and it's successful, you get a lot of tax benefits there. And let me tell you who else it benefits, though. It also benefits married people. It kind of go against single people. If you married, right, you get a better. If you single, you get what, $12,000 standard deduction. You married, you get $24,000.
Yeah, and it really benefits folks where one spouse works and one spouse doesn't. And that's not, I didn't grow up with a whole lot of those. I don't know if any of you did. I was fortunate enough. My wife decided to get out of the corporate world and take the mommy track. And she did a tremendous job of raising our kids. But when you're married, you get the benefit of a higher deduction and a whole lot of other benefits. And she didn't have any income. So that, again, I was able to take advantage of that. But it's a different story. You have to know what things you can take advantage of instead of just complaining about the tax code being for rich people. It is. Those are the rules of the game.
But that's the rules of the game, and it's 4 buckets, though, basically, when it comes to taxes. It's the taxable income, it's the tax-free, it's the pre-tax, and it's the after-tax. So, I mean, no, yeah, right. That's right. I don't think it's any other buckets. That's it. It's only 4 buckets, and the whole key, especially when it comes to retirement, the whole key to retirement planning is trying to be in those buckets where you don't have to pay or the least amount of taxes you can pay. That's the whole key of managing those buckets. And then the other trip, though, is, and I tell people this, one of the best way to beat taxes is to make more money. People think, I'm not going to make no more money. No, give Uncle Sam his 24% or 32% and take your daggone 60, 70% and walk out. But that's how you beat taxes, you know. And the other thing with taxes, and we'll get off of this, though, and I'll let you move on. The last thing, though, people think that getting that big check at the end of the year is fine. But really, Uncle Sam is using your money when you could be using your own money and maximizing the return and maximizing the ability for your money to work for you.
Right, and it clearly shows you aren't planning, you aren't budgeting, you don't have goals if you're getting this big tax refund at the end of the year, because you should know what your tax situation is. You should have an idea of how much you owe on taxes, even if it's just based on what you made last year. You should take a look and see what you end up paying or owing or getting back at the end of this year, and adjust your withholdings and take that extra money and do something positive with it. Invest it in something. Put it in your company savings plan. You know, buy a mutual fund on the side through Robinhood. You can buy individual shares of stock through a lot of the apps now. But don't just get that big check at the end of the year and end up blowing it on something and not having anything to show. Manage your taxes as you manage everything else, like as you should manage everything else in your life. But you have to be on top of it. You truly do.
You truly do. And Dope, the last thing in the model is review and adjust. You must always constantly review the creating wealth model, your plan. You must constantly review it, whether it's monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. Especially if you're using these cash apps and you're using a lot of online cash things, you need to look at your bank accounts on a more regular basis to make sure nobody is not creating identity theft on you, because if they take the money out of your bank account, it takes 30, 60 to 90 days to get the money to be put back into your account once they research it. But if you use credit.
In some cases, if it's your own fault, you may not get it back.
In some cases, wow, though, now that's the truth, right? Yep. So you got to be conscious of that, you all. Review, you can't review enough, adjust accordingly, and just want to share this. Hold up, though. Let me get this up here again, the right way to do it. I want to get this back up so y'all can see the model again. This whole model is what we've been talking about over the last several months, and we're going to be talking even further about other things that we're going to build upon this model. But we just wanted you to see the basic components that we've talked about so far. And it's really simple, you all. It's just not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. So with that, Dope, one of the takeaways is you need to understand the basics, right? Now, you can get the knowledge yourself, but if you're not going to get the knowledge yourself, you must seek professional help, like a financial advisor, a certified financial planner, or a certified financial counselor, somebody who does this every day that can help you. But even if you do get a professional, that does not prohibit you or leaves you with not understanding. You need to understand the basics.
And you got to be disciplined. You have to have discipline. You have to say, I'm going to spend X amount on this. I'm going to spend X amount on that. I'm going to enjoy X amount. I'm going to save X amount. And you have to stick to it. You have to have these goals in your head of where you want to end up, and not so much worried about instant gratification and being happy today, but looking at your long term. And it's hard to do. We're not saying any of this is easy, but when you get to your goal and you have the monies that you need to do whatever it is you want to do, it is such a good feeling to not have to worry about money.
The next one is the only constant is change. You got to be prepared to make adjustments, like I just finished talking about. I mean, money is constantly moving, you all, constantly changing. When you sleep, money is constantly moving and it's active. And money is atypical, though. It's not good or bad. It's what you do with it. And they say you usually can tell a person how they handle their money or where their soul is by looking at their checkbook or looking at their credit card balance. But you must constantly be able to adjust because that's the days and times we live in. Times are constantly changing. And the old person told me, time will either pass with you or without you. You want it without you. You want it to pass with you.
Yeah, and again, we're going to continue to fine-tune our model, add additional components as needed. You know, as I said before, we're not saying this is the only way to do it, but this is a way that has worked. It will, if you follow these, it will be successful and you will build wealth. We are proof of that.
Yes, and make up your mind. Do you want to get your finances in order? That's the self-assessment we're talking about in the first piece of the model. Before you even begin, you need to make up your mind. And if you do, you know, it's just like, you know, if you're going somewhere, you're on a destination, you don't just walk out your house, get in your car, stick the key in the ignition and turn the key and expect to get there. What do? You normally put it in the GPS and you kind of assured, 100% assured that you're going to get to where you're going because now you have the roadmap to get there. And that's what we all me and Dodie is just trying to provide you all, is a roadmap to get you to the destination of financial freedom that you need. And just remember, the road to building wealth is not easy, but the destination is financial freedom. That is so important. And it's all about discipline, you all. You know, without discipline, academic education is a waste. Without discipline, financial education is a waste. And I just want to shout out, Dope, one of our key viewers that has been here, and I'm just starting to be able to look on the other site and see Garnett Nickens, who I used to work with. And she even got Joanne Skinner is out there watching too. We all worked at the FDIC. They still work at the FDIC, if I'm correct. But Garnett is always watching every week. And we want more people to do that. I mean, we said this before. There's nothing in this for us but to help our people raise their boats. We're not selling nothing. We don't have no products. We don't have no ulterior motives. Well, we do have ulterior motive. We want you to become financially independent. So tell your families.
Go ahead, let me add, the thing that I found is the people I've been around in my professional life who are very wealthy, a lot of things they learned at the dinner table. They learned from their father. They learned from their uncle. They learned from a friend down the street. They learned from somebody at the country club. Most of us, first generation college people, we learned the hard way. I was just fortunate enough to be around people. My best man, Larry Sheffield, he was a few years older than me, but he pointed me in the right direction. I always tried to be around people doing what I wanted to do, who had money, and was willing to share that information. And it's funny, a lot of us have no other way of learning these things. And that's why we're doing this, because if you don't have someone explaining this to you as you're growing up, then you find out the hard way. You make a lot of mistakes. And believe me, I made a ton of mistakes, but I was very fortunate. The fact that I was an accountant in the business world helped broaden my knowledge and allowed me to learn some things that the average person wouldn't learn. Getting a master's degree, becoming certified, All those things help, but I didn't learn them at home. Nobody ever told me this is how you build wealth. And so that's one of the main reasons we're doing this, because a lot of us don't get this information in our everyday life. Okay. So we're just trying to pass something on that we've picked up along the way, and hopefully it can help you out.
Dope. I want to share with people, you made a very important observation. The old school traditional way, people would sit down at the dinner table and, like the griots, sit around and pass the information. But nowadays, people are not sitting down at the table eating. But what surveys have been showing, that when you're taking your kid to like a soccer match or field hockey match or basketball, those are times you talk about these things that we talked about, because you're not sitting around the table all, one family like they used to. Most people just don't do that. Everybody eating at different times. But the key is to have these conversations when you can, when you're traveling to the store. When I knew I came up, you wasn't supposed to sit down with your parents while they doing their budget and paying bills. Today, we need to do that, because I didn't learn nothing about that.
Yeah, and this is a generalization, but Black folks typically don't share information like white folks do. I mean, that's just something I've observed. In my professional life, I was mostly around white people. White people will ask you how much you make. Black people don't talk about how much somebody.
What you need? Don't be asking me.
Consider that nobody's business. But if you know what somebody makes, you can know if that's a job you aspire. You know where you are in your career, and it comes down to money. They talk a lot more about money than we do, and they got more money to talk about than we do. But it's just, you need to ask people. Look at people who are doing or accomplishing what you want to accomplish, or who have things that you want to have. If they didn't get them on credit, found out how they did it. Expand your knowledge, learn more about money and how to make money and how to get money and how to take advantage of a particular situation. But again, that's a generalization. I know it's not.
I experienced the same thing, though. I'm at my job, like you said, when I was, being a stockbroker and a financial advisor, Black folks didn't want to share their financial information with me, because they ride around in BMWs and high flying on all these trips. And when you looked at their management of money, it was jacked up. So they didn't want to, their pride got involved, and they didn't want to tell you. And I'm trying to help them, but they didn't want to tell me all about their finances. You know what I said to them, though? God, that goes for foolishness. So sometimes you got to tell them that, man, because we need to break these ties, these habits, like I talked about with the self-assessment, these behaviors, because it's all behavioral, dope. So just want to thank everybody. Oh my God, dope, man. I got another co-worker, Modestine Johnson, who just retired, by the way, everybody. She's out there watching too, man. We got a bunch of people watching, dope, man, and we hope that y'all take and share this information. Don't hold it to yourselves. Share it with, Lottie, Dottie, and everybody. So we want to thank everybody. If you have any comments, and remember this, you all, remember this. If some of this information is going over your head, or it seems like your head is about to explode, use the comment button. Real time. Don't wait until we get off. Go out there and say, can you repeat what you said, Dodie? Can you clarify what you said, Bob? Because that's what we want to use these sessions. We just don't want to be talking to you. We want it to be interactive, because we want to help you, but we can't help you unless you ask for help. So maximize. And then the other thing is, the more comments you put in that comment box, the more it expands our viewership. So that's just that alone. But remember, hit those buttons, the like buttons and the heart, as you see there, the little heart. And we really appreciate you all. And I just want to, before I get off here, dope, me and you get off here, I just want to once again, I want to share the FITT Show Creating Wealth model. If you follow these steps, we can't guarantee you that you're going to have wealth, but we can tell you this much: you will be headed in the right direction, and you'll be getting way further ahead you are than doing nothing. That's all I wanted to share with you all. Once again, this is the FITT Show. We're here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Check us out, you all. Though, any final remarks?
Peace.